Hey folks, let's try and get this one in. It's a really windy, cold day where I am. I'm probably going to get a lot of wind noise, but I'm just going to persevere anyway. Sometimes you meet a eucalypt and you meet it pretty frequently, and like I said about Eucalyptus squamosa, they're just a bit of a miserable specimen. They're sort of a eucalypt that, well, you'd probably just say isn't the most handsome one you're going to come across. But this one's really common, and it's a really good one to know, and it's sort of easily identifiable in its habitat. And this is a broadleaf peppermint, Eucalyptus dives. I'm just on the Wombeyan Caves Road, just not too far out of Mittagong or Welby, in an area called High Range. You get a lot of sandy, swampy woodland here, though it's sort of cold as well. We get a lot of scribbly gum, Eucalyptus rossii. There's Eucalyptus minifera, Eucalyptus rubida. There's a bit of snow gum around, Eucalyptus pauciflora. There's radiata not too far away, and there's a bit of immonalis as well, and the odd stringy bark here and there. So there's a good mix, but it's sort of a mostly gently undulating to flattish, sort of sandy, swampy country. And what it will throw up too is a lot of Eucalyptus dives, and this is it here. This is only a sapling about 2 meters tall, but the first thing you are homing in on with dives is this really distinctive juvenile foliage. It's always doing that sort of thing in the juveniles. These sort of squared off, sessile leaves like that in the juvenile stage. Nice and fat, nice and broad. And just in this particular part of the world, there's not too many ukes that throw this sort of thing. And when you give them a crush, just like the Eucalyptus radiata, the peppermint smell is overpowering. It is so strong. It's as far as peppermints go, this is right up the extreme end of the punch in the face, or the punch up the nose. It is very, very strong. So if I don't see Eucalyptus dives for a while, I can sort of tend to forget about it, and I can stand in the bush for a couple of minutes figuring out what I've got. But then I just look for these, and it all comes running back to me. They're the juvenile leaves. These strongly sort of truncate or squared off bases, opposite pairs for a long time, and they're nice and big and genuine. So that's the first thing to look for with dives. Bluey green, very bluey green in colour. And they sort of got a bit of a thickish texture. They're not overly thick, but they're not overly thin either. Pretty concolorous in the juvenile stage. Just, not overly thick, but not overly thin. They're sort of on the thickish side though. I've got a tree over here, a taller one. I reckon I'm going to struggle for buds and fruit, but we'll see how we go. But here's a typical dives. The top of it's dead, and that's no surprise a lot of the time with dives. I see them around New South Wales looking in these sort of habitats, looking regularly like this, just generating very little canopy cover, putting out some juvenile growth, and then you do have a sort of peppermint trunk. Here it's a bit more long fibrous than a typical peppermint, but you can see that breaks up really easily. It's not like a stringy bark. That's going to break up nice and finely. Come over here, it's very stringy bark looking, and you can tear off big strips, but they break up. They just break up into little crumbs like a peppermint typically does. Something like piperita or radiata. It's just got a finely fibrous bark. So it can generate a whole heap of sawdust. I got no problem just crushing that up into nothing like that. So very weakly sort of fibrous, but you can pull off strips like that. The bark goes a long way up, pretty much to the ultimate branches. So it's sort of going 90% of the way up the tree, like Eucalyptus radiata. Eucalyptus piperita, the bark tends to sort of peter out a bit further down. But radiata and dives, it goes a fair way up. I'm going to see if we can find any fertile material in these patches here. Though with Eucalyptus dives, it's very rare that I get any fertile material. I just tend to go on the juvenile foliage because a lot of my work, I'm just getting trees like this, these little 4 metre, 5 metre jobbies that are always looking half dead. And it's just enough for me to look at those juveniles, and once I know I've got it in a particular patch, then the rest of them are pretty identifiable. Dives has a pretty big range. It goes up, it's a New South Wales Victorian tree, New South Wales to about the Candos area. But then there's a disjunction. There's a disjunct patch around Armidale. I think it's to the east of Armidale or the east of Tamworth there. And then it comes down into New South Wales, mainly on the tablelands. It's all across the tablelands. And it goes down into Victoria and sort of does a big sweeping arc through Victoria, the eastern part of Victoria, through Melbourne and north of there, and then I think it peters out in the sort of west of Victoria around Stawell or somewhere like that. But there's a few inland records as well around Griffith. I'm not sure if they're correct or not, but it's got a really strong tablelands distribution. Real tablelands tree, there's a lot of it in Kosciuszko National Park. So it's one you can look out for pretty easily. A lot of the time it grows on sort of sandy soils or poor country. It'll grow up the top of rocky hills, and it'll grow sort of on sandy flats as well sometimes. It loves hanging out with scribbly gum in these inland areas, and it will hang out with Eucalyptus minifera, and will probably hang out with snow gum as well. They're the sort of trees that it'll happily hang out with. Just see what fertile material we can get. Here's the dives on the side of the road. You can see just that beautiful fibrous bark again. It's almost weaved on itself like that, like sort of cross-weaved. Can make some beautiful patterns sometimes. And again, straight away, just know what the juveniles are doing. You get these juvenile sprays. It really does help with the ID. In terms of the adult leaves, they're up here above the road. They can get to 15 centimetres long and up to about 4 centimetres wide, I think. I'm probably not going to get hold of any sort of adult stuff, but that's up there. This tree's about, it's about 10 metres tall. They get to about 20 metres. But yeah, the adult leaves, about 15 centimetres long, so they can be much more lanceolate, but they've normally got a bit of width to them. This is a broadleaf peppermint. They've got a bit of width and mostly green, but a little bit bluey green, and with a strong peppermint smell. Just going to scratch around for some fertile material, at least try and have a look at something. Here's the foliage sort of at a more adult stage, although this is still a sort of sapling branch. But you get the general idea there. A lot of the leaves are sort of fattish. They're, 3 centimetres wide or so, but they've well and surely gone disjuncts now. And a lot of these, they're only about at the 10 centimetre long mark or so, but you can just see they're pretty on the fat side. And yeah, the broadleaf peppermint, it's a good name for it due to that feature. I'll just grab this one here. Yeah, on the thickish side. It's definitely got a fair bit of thickness there. Should be concolorous. Most peppermints are, or pretty much all of them are. Piperita, radiata. And I'll just have a smell. Yeah, and the peppermint again is pretty strong, but in the juvenile leaves it's a lot stronger. But it is pretty strong here. So that's just a sort of semi-adult juvenile branch. And yeah, the leaves have definitely got a good hint of blue in them. Just struggling with material here, folks, but Eucalyptus dives, it's one of those trees where I, really stupidly don't spend a lot of time focusing on the sort of the crucial parts, because I just find them so easy to identify. Just one of those trees. I got some fertile material here, just got little bits, and I got some fruit up there I'm trying to get hold of. But look, here's a tree on the side of the road, and there's that juvenile foliage. It's just so easy to go on that, to go on the bark and the juvenile foliage. That's sort of the lazy, what I call the lazy default, lazy botany. But let's have a look at the buds. Now, being a peppermint, the buds are in normally 11s or more, and we've got to get good representative samples. But like I showed with the radiata, these are the buds generally. That's a very peppermint looking bud structure. For, goes for sort of radiata, alata, dives. You can see we've got about 10 buds there, maybe 9. Yeah, 9 buds. But dives like radiata is known for having sort of over 11 at least, and maybe getting up towards that sort of 20 bracket. Or it's getting into that sort of 15 to 30 sort of bracket anyway. I just don't have enough clusters here to do it justice, but you're getting the general bud shape anyway. Yeah, that's typical peppermint. There's a few others higher up. I'll just see if I can get some. There's some more buds there, examples. I just got this branch down. And yeah, they are described as being at least 11 or more. It's not really doing it justice, these ones. Typically with the peppermints, they throw it into that above 11 number, or 11 or more. Just trying to look at this one here. Yeah, maybe about 9 or 10 again. So look, it's likely the case a lot of them have aborted, but at least you get the general appearance anyway. Nice long peduncle, and looks like they just got a really short operculum. Most of the bud is sort of the hypanthium, is what I'm sort of thinking. So just a short bud on these, a short operculum, I should say, bud cap on these peppermints. Quite distinctive. Got probably you'd have to call that adult foliage with buds on it, so you can sort of have another look at that. I've just got some fruits up high. I'm just going to see if I can get them. This will probably do us for the fruits. It's probably as far as we have to go, but just note, the buds do form in clusters of 11 or more, but here we're down to 4 fruits, and that's the general shape of dives. They're very similar to radiata. They're a nice bowl shape. They've got a nice genuine peduncle there, maybe 10 to 20 mil. And they're each pedicellate as well, so they're well spaced out. The valves, I think, are described as rim level to exerted. And just a nice hemispherical fruit. Maybe a little bit like resinifera or something like that. Just a nice bowl shape. These fruits are about, maybe about 6 or 7 mil across, and probably about the same long. Just got a final example here. There's just not a lot on this tree, and most of it's very high up in the canopy. But you can see they're just reduced to 2s and 3s and 4s now, but they're quite handsome in their own right. Still ripening up, and I'm going to release the seeds. So that's your Eucalyptus divies. Very common on this Wombian Caves Road. As soon as you get sort of rocky, scribbly gum woodland, you should be looking out for it. Or some colder sandy flats on the tablelands. Look out for it as well. Just don't forget the juvenile foliage. That's the first thing I go for, along with the trunk. Along with its general sort of, this one's doing okay, but its general sort of miserable appearance. Just, it never seems to be overly happy divies, but I'm sure in some parts of the state you probably get better and nicer populations. I think I've seen some really nice ones in Kosciuszko. It's probably the place to have a look. Alrighty, I hope that helps.